Hey friends, Michael Warren here from Essential Guitar Lessons, and let's learn all about music theory for guitarists. This is part 6, so make sure you've watched part 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 before you tackle this one, and I'll put a link in the description for you. Don't forget, if you like this lesson, to subscribe and hit the notification bell, and check out my YouTube channel, Essential Guitar Lessons. Lots of songs and lessons for all levels, and new lessons uploaded weekly. I'll put a link in the description also for that. Now, if you're having any problems with this lesson, please leave a comment and I'll get back to you. So in this lesson, we'll look at root notes for our scales, what an octave is, the circle of fifths, and different ways to use it. Now, it was a bit remiss of me, and I should have put root notes and octaves in earlier lessons, but we'll quickly cover them here because they're pretty easy to understand. Then we'll do our circle of fifths. So a root note is just the starting note of our scale, and that goes for all scales: major, minor, harmonic minor, melodic minor, chromatic, diminished, any scale. The first note is the root note. Now, we do have root notes for chords, but we'll look at that down the track. So if I was to play my G major, that first note, the G, is my root note. If I was to do it an F sharp major, again the first note, F sharp, that would be the root note, and that's the same for our minors. If I was to do an A minor there, my first note, the A, would be my root note. So that's pretty easy. The starting note to all scales is also called the root note, and we spoke about with our major and minor scales also, the first note is the first degree, and it's also the tonic, and now it's also the root note, and that goes for all scales. The starting note is the root note. So let's have a look at the term octave. An octave is a musical interval and is just the distance between two notes. So if I have a C, it is a distance to the next note with the same name. So that would be C at a higher or lower pitch. And that goes for all the notes. So if I had a G, I could go all the way to the next G, and that's an octave, or I could go down to the G, and that's an octave as well. I could do B flat, so B flat to B flat, that is an octave, up or down. I could do my sharps as well. So if I had C sharp, I could go from C sharp back to C sharp, and that's an octave as well. Now, there's two different ways to look at an octave. So the first way is 12 semitones or half step from the note we started on. So bring up your chromatic scale, and you can see if I start from A, I have a semitone from A to A sharp, a semitone from A sharp to B, a semitone from B to C, a semitone from C to C sharp, a semitone from C sharp to D, a semitone from D to D sharp, a semitone from D sharp to E, a semitone from E to F, semitone from F to F sharp, a semitone from F sharp to G, semitone from G to G sharp, and a semitone from G sharp back to A. So we have 12 semitones there, and that works for every note on the chromatic scale. So let's say we were to start on D sharp. We just take our 12 steps, our 12 semitones, to just move one note up each time, and that takes us back to D sharp. So the second note we're playing can be higher or lower. So if I go backwards through the chromatic scale, it'll take me to a lower note there. So it's just 12 semitones, and that'll take you back to the note with the same name that you started on, but it'll be what we call an octave higher or an octave lower. So there's a couple of ways we can do it on the guitar, and if we're counting up semitones, we can do it on one string really easy. Just count 12 semitones up the fretboard. So let's say we're on the first fret on our top E string, which is F, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 there. So that takes me to an octave. I have an F here, and I have an F of a higher pitch up here, and I can go backwards doing that as well. So let's take our A on the G string here on the 14th fret, and I go back. So each time I go back, that's a semitone, and we count 12 back. So I have my A here, and we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and I end up on my A there. So I've still gone 12 semitones, but this time I've gone from a higher A to a lower pitched A there, and that's an octave as well. So pretty easy on the guitar, we're just doing it on one string, and I'll show you a different way to do that as well as we get into it. So that's pretty easy, just 12 semitones along our chromatic scale or up or down on our guitar. Now the next way, and this is why it's called an octave, oct meaning 8, so it's the 8th note of the major scale, and that goes for every major scale. So just count up 8 notes on your major scale. Now in part 4 we said the major scale has 7 different notes. But when we play a major scale, we finish the scale off on the same note we started on, an octave higher or an octave lower. So 8 notes up the major scale, remember to count the first note. And if we bring up the C major scale, we can just count 8 notes. So C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and then we're back to C, so the octave is C. If I'm doing it on my guitar, let's say I'm doing G major, I just count up 8 notes. Remember to count the first note as 1. So 1, that's our G, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So that's also a G, an octave higher there. So we have a low G and a high G there. Let's do another one. Let's say we were doing B major. So my first note, my root note we just spoke about, count up 8 notes on our major scale. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The 8th note is the octave, and they're both B's, 1 octave apart there. So there's a really easy way to find the octave on the guitar. I'm on the top string, I skip a fret and go to the next fret. So I'm on the 3rd fret, I go to the 5th fret, and I go down 2 strings. And that gives me the octave there. And that works on every fret. So I'd have a B and a B, an A and an A, I can have the E and the E, the F and the F. Now it works also on the A string, so if I was on my D here, go up 2 frets, so I'm on the 5th fret first, then up to the 7th fret and go down 2 strings there. So I'm on the A string and the D string, 5th and 7th fret. And that's an octave there, I'm playing D and D there. And that works for the A string in any position on any fret there, it's the octave. Coming to the D string, it changes a little bit. Let's say I'm on my 5th fret on my D string. Now this time I go up 3 frets and still come down 2 strings, and that's my octave there now. So I'm on the 8th fret on the B string, on the 5th fret on the D string, and that's an octave there. And that's the same on every fret there is our octave. Same on the G string. Go up 3 frets, go down 2 strings, and I have my octave there. So on our E string we only go up 2 frets, A string 2 frets, D string 3 frets, and the G string 3 frets. And we can find our octaves really easy. Now I can also have 2 or 3 octaves, and there's a few different ways we can do that. If I was on the G major scale, I could just count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I've got my octave for my first note. And then I start again on the 1 where I had 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 is my next octave. So from the low G up here to this high G, I'll play 2 octaves. Now I could also have that G there, G there, G there. So that's 2 octaves as well. That's the same note there. Or I could go up to 3 octaves, which would put me up to the 15th fret there on the bottom E string. So that would be 3 octaves there. And I can do that with all the notes, work out the different octaves. If I was going back, I've got G, come back to the G there. If I've got A, I can come back to the A there. So I've gone down an octave. So that's octaves, not too hard. We're just going up 8 notes along our major scale. Now let's have a look at the circle of fifths. So the circle of fifths is just a visual representation of our major scales, their key signatures, so sharps and flats, and their relative minor scales. So if you don't remember the notes to all the major scales and their relative minors, it's a quick guide. So let's bring it up and take a look. Now we'll start with just the outside circle, we'll add the inside circle in a minute. So we start with C at the top because that has no sharps or flats. And going clockwise, we're going up a perfect fifth, like we did when we're going through our major scales in part 4. And we'll look at intervals in the next lesson. So we just count up 5 notes from the scale we're on. So I'm from C, let's go C, D, E, F, G. So my next note around the circle of fifths going clockwise is the G major, and we write the key signature next to that, which would be F sharp. And then we just go up a perfect fifth from the G, so we count G as 1, and we're counting the notes of that scale, so G, A, B, C, D. So our next note is D, or our next scale is a D major scale, and we put our key signature F sharp, C sharp. We go up a perfect fifth again from the D, takes us to A. We put our key signature F sharp, C sharp and G sharp there. We go up another perfect fifth, so again just count up on the A major scale. That takes us to E, and the key signature is F sharp, C sharp, G sharp and D sharp. Then we go up a perfect fifth again, takes us to B major, our key signature being F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, D sharp and A sharp. Then we can go up again from the B, and that takes us to F sharp there, and the key signature is F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, D sharp, A sharp and E sharp. Now sometimes people stop there, but we can keep going, which would take us to C sharp major, and that's all the major scales we did in the previous lesson. So C sharp major and its key signature, F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, D sharp, A sharp, E sharp and B sharp there. So that's going around the circle clockwise, and we go up a perfect fifth each time, and we write the key signature next to the major scale there. Now going anti-clockwise, we go up in perfect fourths. So we're just counting 4 from the scale we were on. So if we start from C, go back to the top again, we count up 4 from our C major scale, so C, D, E, F. So going anti-clockwise, our next one would be F, and we put our key signature B flat. And then we just go up 4 from F, takes us to B flat. So we have B flat major there, and we write our key signature B flat and E flat. We go up 4 from B flat, so we have B flat, C, D, E flat. So our next one's E flat major, and we have B flat, E flat and A flat as our key signature. We go up 4 again, takes us to A flat major, and our key signature B flat, E flat, A flat and D flat. We go up 4 again from there, and this time we're going to have D flat major, and we have B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat and G flat. And we put that next to our C sharp major because it's enharmonic there. It's the same note, D flat and C sharp. And then we go one more to our G flat major, so going up 4 again from D flat. And our key signature, B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat, G flat and C flat there. So that's our outside circle of our circle of fifths. We just have all our major scales and their key signatures. When I'm going clockwise, I'm going up a perfect fifth. When I'm going anti-clockwise, I'm going up a perfect fourth. Now on the inside, we put the relative minors. Let's have a look at that. So our inside circle is just the relative minors, and we spoke about that the last lesson. It just has the same key signature as its relative major. So C, we have A minor, no sharps or flats. And when we're going clockwise, we're going up perfect fifths again. And going anti-clockwise, we're still going up a perfect fourth there. So we have C and A minor, G and E minor. So E minor has an F sharp as well, it's relative minor. D and B minor with its key signature F sharp and C sharp. We have A and F sharp minor. We have E and C sharp minor. We have B and G sharp minor. We have F sharp major and D sharp minor. And we have C sharp major and A sharp minor. Going anti-clockwise, we have the D minor with the F, again with the same key signature, B flat. We have B flat major and G minor. We have E flat major and C minor. We have A flat major and F minor. We have D flat major and B flat minor. And we have G flat major and E flat minor there. So that gives you all the relative minors inside the circle. So that's what the circle of fifths looks like. It's a quick guide to all the major scales and their key signatures and their relative minor scales. So that's one way of using it. There's other things we can do with the circle of fifths. So there's actually lots of things we can do, and let's have a look at a few of them now. So the first thing, a really easy one, is we can work out the notes to our power chords really quickly. So if I start on C and I just go round, so I'm going clockwise to G, that's my C power chord, C and G. So if we have a look at that on the guitar, I have C and I have a G there. So that's my C power chord, and I can add the extra C in up the top there. So power chord's really easy. If I was on B flat, I just go clockwise to F, and that's the notes to my B flat power chord. The note we start on will always be the lowest note of the power chord. So we have a look, B flat and F there. So I have B flat and F, and that gives me my B flat power chord, and I can add another B flat on the end there. Let's do one more. If I had my E, I go clockwise, that takes me to B, and then I have the notes to my E power chord. So we have a look again, E and B, and I can add the E in there underneath the B, and that gives me the notes to my E power chord, or I can play it at a lower octave as well there. Now you can also use the middle circle, and it will give you the notes to the power chord as well. Just don't worry about the minors here. So if we were going from our A to our E, that's the notes to our A power chord. So we have A and E, and that's the notes to our A power chord. So just remember, the first note is the lower note of the power chord, the second note is what we call the fifth above. Now we can also work out the notes to our major triad, so just a major chord there. Let's have a look at that. So we have the starting note, and that's the root note to our chord. So let's say we had C. The next note would be the fifth of the chord, so I had G, and then I go up 5 from my first note, and this is all clockwise, and that gives me an E there. And we're using the outside circle again. So the notes to my C major chord are C, E and G. The E is the third note of the chord, and the G is the fifth note of the chord, and the C is the tonic. And we'll have a look at triads down the track there. Let's do another one. If we had F, and then I go around to C, that gives me the root note and the fifth, and then I just go up 5 from the F again, and that takes me to A. So my F chord would be F, A and C there. And they're the notes to my F major chord. Let's do one more. If I had D, we go to the next note, which is A, so that's the fifth, and our D is our root note, and we go up 5 from the D, so we have D, A, E, B and F sharp there. So the notes to my D major chord would be D, F sharp and A. Now you can also use it for chord progressions as well, so let's have a quick look at that. So to get a nice easy 1, 4, 5 chord progression, and again we'll talk about chord progressions as well later down the track. Start with any notes. Let's say we start with C. We go to the next note clockwise, which gives me the G, so that's up a fifth, and I go back to the C and go anti-clockwise, and that gives me the F. So that gives me a nice simple 1, 4, 5 chord progression, C, F and G. Now you can also start with any note for these. So let's do another one. We can start on the C, move one up clockwise, takes me to G, move one anti-clockwise from our starting note, and that would give me F, and then take the relative minor to the first note, so the tonic, and that'll give you A minor if we're using C. So you can use the chord progression 1, 4, 5 and 6 there. Another nice easy chord progression, or you can change that around as well. And you can find lots of different chord progressions in our circle of fifths using the majors and the relative minors. Now you can also use it for modulation as well. So let's have a quick look at that. So pick a note. So let's say we say C, and the one to the left of it would be F, and the one to the right of it would be G. And those notes have the most amount of chords in common. So we're talking about diatonic chords there. The further away you go from your original note, you have less chords in common. So it gives you a guide as to what chords and what keys you can change to when you're modulating there. Now don't worry too much about modulations and different chord progressions. We'll get to that in later lessons. For the moment, we just want to see that we can use the circle of fifths for different things. So that's the circle of fifths and some different ways to use it. You can find your own uses for it as well. So I hope you enjoyed this lesson. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you soon.